am Allie. Join me as we make these beaded snowman earrings. These snowman beaded earrings feature some Potomac pearls and some seed beads. If you need any supplies, go ahead and look below the video. You can also watch the video to see that you could do these also with crystals. So check that out as well if you're thinking more wreath style rather than snowman. If you need any materials, look below the video. In the description, we'll put a link there to gather up all of your supplies. Gather up your bead on it board, all of your materials, and let's get started. So our snowmen have lots of options when you come to it. I want to actually show the Facebook Live that we did making earrings based on the ocular bracelet. And this was the thought process that led to the snowman. So think and keep in mind that if you don't want to do a snowman, you can make a beautiful pair of earrings with crystals and with seed beads or delicas as well. So just kind of keep those off. Also change the colors out a little bit and you get a wreath and a door stacker wreath. So I have 4mm pearls here, 3 colors of 11/0s, and my wire guard. The first thing we're going to do is actually start with our middle of our snowman. And I have some gray thread just to make it a little bit easier to see, and a size 12 beading needle. I'm going to put onto my needle 1 of my pearls, followed by 3 of my 11/0 seed beads. As you saw on the example piece, you can also switch this out for delicas if you prefer. 3 seed beads go on, followed by a pearl. We're going to do this 4 times since the middle section of the body is 4. If you want a larger snowman, you can always go with a bigger bead if you want to make a pendant to match. Make sure when you're making this first row that you end with 3 of your seed beads because you want that total count of pearl, seed bead, pearl, seed bead. From here, we're going to take it down to the bottom of the thread and we're going to tie a simple knot. I'm letting enough thread there so that way I can tie onto that thread after the fact and have it there to tie the end thread onto. Having that in a nice knot now, we're going to go through, add a little bit more seed beads, and then we're going to progress to the bottom portion of our snowman. Our seed beads were the last thing that we put on our needle. So I'm sewing through the first pearl and the first 11/0 seed bead. We're going to add 1 more 11/0 seed bead to make the body a little bit thicker, and it's going to sit directly over the second seed bead in that group of 3. Add that bead and then sew through number 3 11/0 seed bead, your pearl, and number 1 seed bead on your next grouping of 3. We're going to add an 11/0 above in a peyote style all of those second beads. So you can see I'm doing this over and over 4 times, going in and making my snowman body a little bit bigger. I played around with the idea of putting buttons into the interior of the snowman, but it started looking like a skeleton. But certainly do so, and if you do add anything to the middle of this snowman for buttons, make sure to share it in the comment section below. We love to read your comments. From here, I'm back through that first seed bead and coming out just where I was, adding that first 11/0 in this rotation of 4 times around. So you can see right now you have almost like little points. We are going to connect to that 11/0 seed bead that you added first in those groupings of 4 seed beads. Go ahead and sew up through that first 11/0 seed bead. And now we're going to go in and create the bottom portion of our body. So the bottom portion of our body is going to be much in the same, except to start, we're grabbing 1 11/0 seed bead, and then we're grabbing our pearl. 3 more seed beads and pearl. We're going to repeat this till we have on 5 pearls total. If you want to make the bottom a little bit bigger, again, you can either increase your pearl size or you can increase the pearls in number. So here I have on 4, I'm going to do my 1 more group of 3, followed by my last of my 5th pearls. After my 5th pearl, I want to also add 1 more 11/0 seed bead. So it starts with 111, followed by the pearls with 3 seed beads between each, ends with the pearl and 111 following. The reason being is because we're going to sew back into that same 11/0 from the middle section of the body. And when we do that, that gives us 3 seed beads between those pearls at the top. From here, we're going to do the same thing that we did to the middle section of the body, sewing through 11/0 pearl 11/0, letting our needle exit, and adding an 11/0 between each of those sections. We're going to add an 11-0 between each one of those purl sections, sewing and coming out to bead number 1 in the group of 3, adding basically a 4th bead on there, sewing through bead number 3 and skipping over that second one. As we finish this up, we're going to make our snowman a little bit more rounded, and we're going to do one more step. When coming out that last purl there, what we want to do is mimic what we're doing, adding one more 11-0, skipping over that connection 11 and sewing through the next 11 and the purl and coming out. That'll fill in that top section so that it matches just along the bottom. Now we're coming out of a purl. When we're coming out of a purl, we want to make our guy's body a little bit more rounded. So to do so, I want you to add 2 11-0 seed beads and sew through that top bead that you just added. Add 2 more 11-0 seed beads, sew through the purl. Come out right after the purl, making sure that you're not sewing through any seed beads, and repeat this 3 more times. Going through, adding 2 seed beads, sewing through that top bead that we just added, adding 2 more seed beads, and sewing through the purl. When you sew through the purl, you kind of have to bend it back usually because your needle is naturally going to want to sew through the seed beads as well. 2 more go on, sewing through, and grab a couple more out of my collection here. When you are pouring out seed beads, I usually like to use the top of the container and just pour out a little bit. You can always pour out more. It's harder to clean them up. 2 more go on through the purl. You can see how fast these earrings are occurring. 2 more go on through the 11. 2 more go on, and then we're right through the purl. As we come out the last purl here, what we want to do is go back up into the design so we can do the head portion of our snowman. To get up to the head portion of the snowman here, I want you to take your needle and thread, which is coming out of the purl there, sew through bead number 1 of the 11-0 seed beads, and sew through that connection bead. That bead, remember, that we added the bottom of the snowman onto the middle section. Sew then through the 11-0 purl 11-0 right after that, and that's going to round out kind of that connection as well. So up through your beads, and we need to get to the top of our snowman to add his head. As we get to the top of the snowman here to add his head, and remember, if you are having trouble kind of following along at all, you can always slow this down. And that's in your settings. You can do it to a slower speed. I know it's always a struggle for me to not speak quickly. From here, when you're at the top, coming out the topmost bead of your section, we're going to get ready to add our snowman's top and his little scarf. So here I have black seed beads and red seed beads, as well as 2 more pearls. Coming out here, you're going to pick up 1 and 2 11-0 seed beads, followed by 1 pearl and 1, 2, 3, 4 black seed beads. 1 more pearl, and then 2 more red seed beads. We're sewing back through that middle connection, just like we did at the bottom when we were getting the bottom of our snowman on. This is the foundation for the hat and the scarf of the snowman. Coming out basically the neck of the snowman, we're going to do a little peyote stitch and get our scarf ready to go. I want you to sew through that first 11-0 of the red, coming out between the 2, and you're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 of your red beads. Once you add those 4 red beads, we're going to use 3 of our crystal beads in order to look like a little fringe on the scarf. If you want to make the scarf longer, you certainly can. From here, we're going to add another red bead, skip over the first red bead, and sew through the second red bead. So we're reversing down the line and doing a peyote stitch. From here, once again, add another seed bead, skip the next one in line, and you are going to sew through the next seed bead. So we're skipping over here and we're sewing through the next one in line. That's going to get our scarf coming right off of the edge. And we're going to sew now back up through that second red bead. You'll see the scarf coming right off there. And I want you to sew through and come out the third black bead. Once you're through the third black bead, go ahead and add 2 more beads, and we're going to square stitch these on. Going back through, the 2 beads our thread is coming out of, 2 beads are going to sit directly above it, and that's going to be our top hat. If you want the top hat to be a little bit longer, you can certainly do more. I'm now going to sew through those 2 beads that I just added, and we're going to get ready to add our wire guard. So here we have our wire guard ready to go. We're going to go up through the wire guard. Oops. Once you're up through the wire guard, go ahead and come down the opposite side of the wire guard. And you're also going to go into the opposite side of the seed beads. Coming through that opposite side of the seed beads after you have that wire guard on, you're going to notice that it kind of pulls the wire guard right to the top. You want to reinforce that. So I want you to go back through that wire guard, up through the center, get another piece of thread in there, come down the opposite side, and sew over once again through those 2 beads. Along the side here, then, you're going to sew down into the 2 beads that sit directly below it. Sew down into your hat and the neck of your snowman, and over through that middle bead again. From here, what we're going to do is get rid of our thread. So we just need to sew down through the design till the thread ends meet. Once those thread ends meet, you can go in here then, tie them off, burn it, and just stick on your ear wires to complete your little snowman earrings. Thanks so much for joining me on these snowman beaded earrings. They are super cute and getting us ready for the holiday season, and winter is coming. Remember, you can also do these in a different design as a wreath or even a different colored snowman if you want. So remember, if you need any of those materials, look below the video in the description to shop with us online. If you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to see you here for all of our tutorials and not miss anything. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for our next inspirational design.